Welcome back to the Crazy Confidence Coach podcast. Today, I have a very special treat with behind the curtains guest, Prisca Benson, CEO and founder of Our Green Life. That's right, our financial life. So pick up your pen and paper and be ready to take notes as Prisca shares her tips and tricks as a financial coach to help you get better with your money, have more financial freedom, and just be overall a confident financial woman in business or at home. You're not going to want to miss this episode. I promise it's full of lots of really cool information. I hope you enjoy this conversation as much as I did. Here we go. I really want, especially female entrepreneurs or just women trying to change their lives or upgrade their lives, to have kind of a behind the curtain view of what women who are building businesses or helping other women, what does that look like? Because I think there's this idea that it's hard, it's difficult, it can't be done, and that everybody has the magic wand to make it happen.
Yeah.
And I just want the average person to say, oh, it can be hard, yes, but it also can be easy, or it can be manageable.
Yes.
And the one thing I really loved bringing you on was, one, your topic. So I want you to introduce what you do and why you got started or how you got started, because there's probably layers to that.
My name is Prisca. I'm a money coach and owner of Our Green Life. I help professional women create a plan for their money that allows them to live their best life now while securing their dream future. And my background and how I got started is that I graduated in 2011 as a nurse, making more income than both my parents combined. So this felt like, such a windfall, not realizing that I really didn't know squat about managing money. And I lived a life of swiping the credit card, paying down just enough to swipe it again, cashing out my 403B for no reason, doing all these little things that I didn't realize were money mistakes at the time. And then realizing when I got married 2 years later that, hey, I can do more things than just spend money. I can actually save it so I can do stuff that I want with it. I could aspire to a future with money. And so that was the beginning of my intentional journey with money, all because my husband, he had none of the debt. So I was observing, his life. And I'm I want a little bit of that. And then in 2018, I still felt like my net worth could be better if I understood more about money. And that's when I really started seeking out personal finance podcasts, really taught me the ins and outs of investing, being intentional about that as well. And that grew my wealth, where at the time my investments were about 40K. Now they're a little over 370K.
That is amazing. So you actually had no background really in finance or education in that area. Your parents kind of probably lived paycheck to paycheck. Is that, or am I assuming that, or was it just
actually
you made a lot more money and they managed their money better than you did?
Yeah, actually I had two experiences. My dad was a saver, so he always had buku bucks in the bank in comparison to my mom, who was very much the spender. She'd carry on the debt and stuff like that. But she was moms are always taking care of stuff for the house and all that stuff. So it wasn't like she was spending frivolously, but she was more into making sure her kids got, the clothes and making sure her kids got taken care of, and the activities they wanted to do, they got to do. That's where her focus was. And so I kind of had technically the example of both, but clearly veered more towards one than the other.
I think I went down your lane too. And then I feel similarly. My mother tended to spend more, but I also think she managed the home. So she was purchasing things to manage the home, right? She wasn't a big go spend for her. Yes. So I love it. Is there a specific experience that you can think of that really made you go down this path, or was it kind of a gradual thing that happened for you? Tell us a little bit about that.
It was actually very gradual. And that's why, if I even think about when I first started making the money in 2011 to getting married in 2013, which is the first impetus, then in 2018, there wasn't, I don't think, anything particularly triggering. I think I just, in the Northeast, nurses are like, when you say you're a nurse, people assume you're rich, right? And I was like, my bank account don't agree with that statement, right? So my investment account, nothing agrees with the statement. Okay. We did have savings at that time because we were already starting to be intentional, but not, there's a big difference between growth in savings and growth in investments. And we did not know a lot about investing at the time. So I think there were like it's kind of like any journey, right? It's not linear. There's like those little bumps and these little spikes. And so like all those things were like little spikes to get me to where I am today.
That's a great way to explain it, like little spikes, because little by little, you face it a little bit more. You mentioned earlier that you were listening to some podcast or you were just gathering information to get educated, I guess, about that. Were they something you found, or did somebody guide you to those?
Nope, I found it myself. I don't remember how I think I just searched it. And the first thing I came in contact with is Her Money podcast by Jean Chatzky. I think that was especially attracting, of course, because it's a woman speaking about finance. But she also didn't speak about finance in a way that was overwhelming or like, stop spending on, your nails, that kind of messaging that women get a lot. It wasn't like that. It was more just from an educational perspective. So the Her Money podcast came from a different direction than most advice to women today when it comes to finances. It was very much more education and empowering versus, you spend too much on food, you spend too much on your nails, you spend too much on this. It was more like educating you on what money was. And then she interviewed these other podcasters from Choose FI. So FI stands for Financial Independence. And when they were on there, I was mesmerized. Like that was like it for me. And because I never heard of financial independence, it's not something that's talked about in my community at all. And the concepts that they were talking about, like maxing out your retirement account, I'm like, that was not even a thought for me. Like I literally had I think by that time, my vision for money was a little bit longer than when I first started, right? Maybe like a year or two out. But now they're having me think 30 years out, or maybe even 20 if you think about like trying to do it faster, retiring. So I'm like, wow, these concepts are very like not known. And that's, I think, what inspired me to like start teaching this to others, because it could feel very much, especially for people of color, it could feel very much like that's them, that's for them. Yeah. And but the beautiful thing about investing is that you can do it from the comfort of your home. Nobody can tell you can't be an investor. And so therefore,
no. That's the other thing. Like nobody is walking around with a sign that says, I'm an investor, I invested, or I didn't invest, or I lost, whatever. Yep. There's no big sign. Well, one thing that is interesting is the thought process, because I kind of grew up in a place where we just were paycheck to paycheck. Mm-hmm. And I remember one time my mother, we literally didn't have food at home. We walked to the payphone. I'm speaking to my age right now, because we didn't have cell phones. We didn't, we walked down the street, put a dime in the payphone and called my grandmother. And I looked down as a probably 5-year-old, and there was $100 bill on the concrete. And I picked up the $100 bill thinking, hooray, we have groceries. Handed it to my mother. My mother said, oh, honey, that's not our money. That's somebody else's money. They may need it to pay their rent. So she made me take it into the clerk at the convenience store. And I handed it to the gentleman, and he was really nice because I was young and whatever. Yeah. And he said, come back in a week. If it's still here, you can have it. We came back in a week later. It was still there, and he gave it to us. Mm. But that was a lesson for me on so many levels. But there was never that feeling of having money consistently. And I think that does really make a difference. And you mentioned being a woman of color and people not having that in their background. It really does impact your ability, and not your ability, but like you said, it's not on your radar. If no one ever taught you to put it on your radar, it's not on your radar. Yep. The only thing that puts it on your radar is either something impacting in your life or coming into your life to teach it to you, or you look it up on your own and find it. So one thing you've mentioned several times is intentionality with money. Yes. So can you talk about that? Because I think that there are probably people listening that are thinking, what does that even mean to be intentional with my money? I intentionally go buy, a massage and my nails, and I buy an outfit. That's intentional, but let's talk more in the context that you're speaking about.
Well, let me give an example of how we don't do it on a regular basis. And a lot of people, I'm sure, will find this relatable. When you step into Target or Costco with the list of the things that you intended to get, and you come out with at least double, That's lack of intention. Okay. Where we are allowing the business to make the choice for us as to how we're going to spend our money instead of us being like the cash flow managers of our money. And so in being intentional, it's not to say like you'll never just get an extra thing, but like you might give yourself that room on purpose. Like, for example, when I go to Costco, I have a list. I'm like, I feel I made a rule for myself that I'm allowed to get one thing off the list. If I see something, I'm like, I just got to have it. But it's the one thing. And that's it, because I am the cash flow master of my household, not Costco. Okay. So, and that was something I had to learn to do. Because when I first got into Costco, I was a member. Hello, the things, the big stuff. Oh, it's just a beautiful place to be, and a lot of people have similar experiences at Target or maybe even with online shopping. But it's really like making the conscious decision, like I have this much to spend and this is how much I'm going to spend. Most of the clients I've worked with, they don't have a lack of money. They have a lack of money management. And so when I work with them to create a plan for their money, like, okay, with this income, this is what we're going to do. This is what we're going to put aside for savings. This is what we're going to invest, whatever the case may be, whatever money you want to put aside, they can implement that and actually see their savings grow versus kind of letting life happen to you.
Yes. When you walk into Costco for the first time or Target or wherever you're walking into, it's so easy to get drawn in. I joke because I used to do most of the shopping and I was the one that went to Costco. The first time I took my husband, we spent $500 because he was walking around like a kid in a candy store. Like I had no idea that they had all this stuff. And so now we don't go to Costco unless we have a list.
Yes.
For that very reason, because it's so easy to see, oh, that would be nice to have. Oh, yeah. That would be fun. And throw it in the cart. And, when you get home, you find that you may or may not use it or what have you. So being intentional about it and managing your money is so important. If we go together, like, no, we don't get to just throw it in the basket. It has to be whatever the purpose is.
Yes.
So the term, managing your money is really important. So let's talk a little bit about the feelings behind money because they are strong. And
big time.
Shame, blame, all the things. Do you coach people on that piece of it too? And
yes,
talk to us a little bit about those things just in general.
Yes. So people run the gamut of one, just feeling like they cannot manage their money, like it's something that's outside of their ability to do. So we work through that by creating the plan. For other people, it's more like kind of like what we discussed before. I was not raised, like I remember I went to a conference recently where they asked us like, what is like our first money memory? I'm like, I don't have a great memory, but I do remember as a kid being told no often when I went to buy something. And I remember telling myself, I can't wait to make money so I could buy whatever I want. And that so manifested down the line because the amount of shoes this girl could buy, honey, it was unreal because I could. And so by not addressing these things and by not even sometimes we don't even recognize that those things have played a role into our present day. We could be taking on actions with our money and beliefs about money into our present day. And that limits our income producing ability, not only just our income producing ability, but also our ability to save and invest and to even learn things about money. If you feel like this is something that's not for you, for your culture, for anything, like you could just not bother learning it. If you feel like as women, especially like this is too complicated to understand, which is nuts because women do crazy things all the time. They're unbelievable. But with money, it could be like, no, explain it to me like I'm 5. I can't understand this. Like, no.
But it's crazy, Prisca, because I just learned something the other day that actually shocked me. That women did not get the ability, weren't given the ability to even get a business loan on their own until the 1980s.
Yes.
Well, that shocked me because I was born in 72 and I was like, wait, my mom couldn't get a loan to start a business until I was almost 14.
Yes.
In that time frame, kind of blew my mind because that has framed a lot of the, I guess, thought process for women when it comes to money too. We're just,
I'm sure,
babies, right? And I find too, when I'm coaching clients just on entrepreneurship or building their business, if they don't confidently believe they can make the money, they won't. They have this subliminal block that they are not even aware of, and they will somehow push that away from them.
Yes.
So it's, I coach on other things other than just money, but it is something that is interesting to see if somebody's like, oh, I'm not good at making money, or I've never had money, or I have to make money is another one. When you have to make money instead of have fun in your business, you've blocked yourself from making business, because all of a sudden it becomes something that is a have to, it's stressful, it's no longer part of that flow. So I can't even imagine going into a marriage. And for some people, they walk into that marriage with a lot of debt. And why I say I can't imagine, I came in with school debt. And so my husband was great. We had the conversation before and we took time to pay that off. But I can't imagine someone who doesn't have that conversation before they get married. And so I've run into some women who have carried in debt or have issues and was spending money, and then that becomes a marriage thing. So do you coach, or do you find that you have that intertwined with the people that you coach and you work with when it comes to money?
Yeah. So while I primarily work with women, of course, a lot of these women are attached to other people, so
imagine that.
So a lot of times that means that encouraging the conversation, but people are not accustomed to having conversations about money. So it's kind of coaching them through how to do that without causing an argument. Like we can sit down and have a conversation about like, hey, how we can create a plan together. What is our vision together? Like without that, it makes it very challenging to create a life together if we're not on the same page financially in terms of like, what is our goals and how are we going to get there? So, and also too, like I've partnered with other people who are in the couple marriage space. So I always introduce my audience to people who do those things as well, like specifically for couples. So that way they can, learn from people who are experts at keeping peace in the marriage.
We always want to keep peace in the marriage.
Yes.
There are so many things that are challenges in a marriage that are outside of money, but money is the central factor, right? That's how you have a roof over your head, and how you put food on the table, and how you buy clothes and all things. So talk to me about how you would help someone who's insecure about money, how they may, confidence in money is really important, especially for entrepreneurs and business owners, but just regular everyday people as well. And all entrepreneurs and business owners are regular everyday people.
Yes.
But speak to how can we go from being completely lost, feeling insecure, hate to look at it, to that confident person ready to, as you say, build that wealth and have more money?
So I think the journey will vary for different people. One, when somebody first comes to me and they do their initial session with me, we're focused on not only what they want out of their money, but also on the nitty-gritty of the dollars and cents. Being able to show someone what their actual circumstance is, usually it's more positive than they thought it was because they feel so negatively about money. I'm able to say big up that hey, look at how much this gap that you have between your income and your expenses. Can you imagine what you could accomplish with this gap? Let's explore what that would look like, So that can turn the tide on someone if, they're willing, because everybody's mindset's different. If they're willing to see things in a more positive light versus the way they've been seeing it for all these years, this weight, this heaviness. And so the whole idea at the end of the day is to kind of make money light and fun, because there are things outside of our control happening in our lives every day. But money is one of those things that we have a good amount of control over. And so why not make this a more positive experience, especially since it can add so much to our lives if we treat it well, if we manage it well, and if we look at it in a positive mindset. It's not about looking to get millions of dollars in your bank account, but the funds that you have, that you are stewarding it responsibly. So that way it can do the things that you want for it.
Right. It's so fascinating because as you were saying that, I was considering how much it is when you put your energy in the front end, and I'm thinking of business because I coach that so much. But the front end, the times where you don't want to spend that extra couple hours working, or you don't want to set a process up for your business, but how much more you get on the backside if you do that. It's so similar to the financial piece of it. When you take the time to sit down and look at it, create processes, look at if there is a gap or not, because a lot of times we're avoiding and we don't even know that there is a gap or if there isn't. And so once you identify what the reality is, then you can actually create a plan and use that plan to create the future that you want. And it's
Yeah.
just getting that clarity. So having a coach to do that, having you do that, especially with the financial piece, is so important. So financial literacy, that's a phrase that you brought up. I didn't bring it up. You brought it up earlier. And I love the term. I'm a lifetime learner. Talk to my listeners about how can they go about starting that journey to get to the point, if they are someone who just doesn't really know where to start, to get to a place where you are, maybe not being a money coach, but getting to a place where they feel confident about their future savings and where they've invested their money.
So one of the first things I came across that was very helpful in my financial literacy journey, and I still use it today, is this website called Investopedia. And they have a term of the day that they email to you every day. And that's how I started learning money terms. Literally the simplest thing, but it made it so you weren't learning every single thing at once, and then it made it where over time it like advanced. Like now I'm looking at stuff, I'm like, whoa, like there's no way these words were like the words I was learning at first, because I probably would have been so intimidated. But now I'm like years in, I'm like, oh, look at these terms, So I actually recommended that in my newsletter like last week. Like this is a great tool for financial literacy. Then of course it depends on like your learning style. So some people are more into books. A great book is Ramit Sethi's I Will Teach You to Be Rich. You could also listen to audio, of course. A great podcast where we talked about her money for the ladies. Choose Fi is also pretty good in terms of, but it gets a little bit, they're like, it's like Money Nerdville over there. So it might be a little intimidating.
Gotta make sure that's your style, right?
Yes. If you love numbers, then that's perfect for you. So yeah, and then and when it came to like even YouTube, like one of the great YouTubers, YouTube I like to follow, she has very short videos. The Broken Wallet, that's also a great one. And of course, when my YouTube launches, you guys can watch me too. But
when are you planning to do that?
Well, my goal was December. So this goal has been since like last year, but I'm gonna do it. My goal was December. I think I overstretched a little bit, so latest is January. Okay. January 2025.
Something to look forward to, and we'll put it at the end. Like, do you know your channel and everything yet?
Yeah, it already exists. There's videos on it. I just need to like really make it a thing now.
Yeah. Well, we'll put it in the show notes so people can find it. Some people will listen to this in a year from now, so you never know.
Yes.
It's kind of a fascinating thing about podcasting, that long form content. Somebody pops up and you're like, I don't have no idea what I said on that episode 20 weeks ago. So yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed it. I'm going to have you wrap it up by talking a little bit about what would you give the listeners for if they're overwhelmed, they're in debt, and they don't want to do, or they don't know how to handle it. How would you kind of guide them gently and give them hope and help?
So I would say get help ASAP, right? It doesn't have to be a financial advisor or a money coach. The first step could be talking to a friend that might be good with money, or maybe even one that's not good with money, because you guys could be accountability partners, in this journey.
I like that idea. That's a great idea.
Yeah, it's great because I think like the conversation, one of the awesome side effects of learning about money is the ripple effect it has. So for my friends, like I know one of my friends, she was like, I actually saved up for a vacation instead of like putting it on a card. And I was like, and she wasn't my client or anything. Like it's just the effect it has. And then my mom opening a high yield savings account, and then she's looking at her interest and like all this stuff. I'm like, as women, especially more so when we learn something, we really put it out there, in the universe. So that is going to be an effect. Like you having this conversation, even if you're nervous with a friend, is going to be where you guys can together look up something maybe, and then go learn the thing together. Like maybe something that doesn't make sense to you makes sense to her, and then she's able to explain it to you, vice versa. So I think that's like the simplest way to get started, is to like kind of turn to someone you trust and start having the conversation. Then of course you can elicit the help of someone like a financial advisor, financial planner, or a money coach. They all kind of do different things. The money coach is very much kind of like, I won't speak for every single money coach's business, but for most of them, it's getting you confident about your money, helping you create a plan that feels good to you, and then also helping you sustain that plan. So providing that accountability. Usually with financial planners and financial advisors, they are there to help you see, okay, if you want to accomplish this goal, these are the things you have to do. And you have to go figure out kind of how to do them, Right. They can help you implement the certain like accounts and certain things like that, but they're not going to be watching over you to make sure you do it,
Right.
So that's the kind of the difference. And then ultimately, of course, just knowing that you do have the ability to learn is going to be another thing. Like this matters. It's going to matter to your family. It's going to matter to your kids, your friends, so don't keep putting it on the back burner as something I'm going to do one day, or, oh, my husband or whoever else is taking care of that. I don't need to worry about it. If you're the last person standing, you don't want that to be the time where you're figuring it out.
Exactly.
So better safe than sorry. And it doesn't require a vast wealth of knowledge for you to be successful financially. I keep myself as simple as possible because I'm a busy person. I'm like, I just want to know what I need to know, and that's it. And then there's certain concepts too. I'm like, I don't need this for my plan. And then my husband would try to explain it to me. I'm like, I don't even want to know about this because I don't want to burden my brain with extra stuff that's not part of my plan,
I really
so
like that
give yourself
concept.
that grace.
Yeah. Giving yourself grace on if it's not something you're ready, or maybe you're just not ready to learn it right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay to say, I don't want to include that right now.
Yep.
I want to get your take. And I know I said lastly a few seconds ago when I asked that question, but I'm going to ask you this because it came to me. And I think it's important. So many people think it's taboo to talk about money. Talk to me about that.
Well, a lot of people in the finance space feel like this is intentional, put on society, so that way people can get wise and become wealthy.
I love that answer. So talk really, really loud about money.
Yes. And like I said, in speaking about it, the effects of just doing the things is amazing. Like even before I started my business, people saw I was doing something different. I don't know. I didn't speak about it. I was just more intentional. And then people were like, hey, let's sit down and talk, look at a budget. Like it's literally just natural for people to like up level around you as you're up leveling. The people who stay behind, they stay behind. But for the most part, the people who care about what you're doing, care about you and notice that you're elevating your life, they want to do it too. And so you get to be that influence.
They'll keep themselves away from you if that's the case. We just had a conversation with some ladies and we're talking about oftentimes when you're elevating, the people that are around you, they're used to you being who you are. Mm-hmm. So they may resist that elevation and that improvement that you make. But if you just keep going, and even when you fail, keep moving forward, eventually they'll catch up to you and be like, hey, I want to do that too. But at first, there's a little bit of cognitive dissonance about who you are, and they want you to stay who you are because that means they get to stay who they are.
Yes.
So it is very important to recognize it's okay to be uncomfortable, move forward and change. And you weren't really, like you said, you weren't telling anybody you were doing that. You were just doing it for yourself. But look at how much influence you have now. How fun is that? That's just amazing.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
I love that.
Getting to see people, to see the possibilities, like life outside of I was in that bubble before. I did not expect a whole lot from my finances when I first started my money journey. And so to be able to get other people to dream that big is pretty cool.
I love that. So one last question. I promise it'll be my last. How has this impacted your relationship with your husband?
So it's funny because when we first got married, he was the person who had all his money crap together and I was not. And I felt not that he made me feel this way, it was very me because I'm very, very like a leadership type style person and like I'm the responsible one. Felt very much like a weight, in our money journey. And then like over time, like we got to be like neck and neck. And then this is another interesting thing. So recently, he had gotten into a business venture that didn't go well. And so now I'm the one like being the heavyweight, So it creates fun because imagine if he never had given me that example to start with of like how to handle money responsibly. I really don't know how we would handle, I don't know where we'd be today. We might be living at my mama's house, like I don't even know. But like we're able to live our life, we own our place and we don't have any threat of like losing it or too much stress about it. Like we can handle each upcoming thing with a plan because of that initial setup.
Right. And money definitely does add or detract stress depending on where you are on that spectrum. Some of that's a choice. I mean, I on that all the time too. Your thoughts are a choice. You can think it's stressful or not. But truthfully, if you can't pay your bills, that makes life a little bit stressful.
Yes.
So thank you so much for coming and chit-chatting with me. But I want to make sure that everybody knows how to get a hold of you, where can they find you, and do you have anything, if you happen to have something right now that you have an offer out, you're welcome to chat about it.
Yes. So I am on Instagram at Our Green Life NJ, like New Jersey, because somebody took Our Green Life already. It's Our Green Life NJ. I'm also on LinkedIn for my professional ladies, under my name, Prisca Benson. And those are the two primary places online you'll find me. I've been dabbling in TikTok, but no promises there. And also through those channels, you can come in contact with my freebie for my peeps. So 3 steps to financial freedom. And it's the initial 3 steps that I took that I think, helps people at least to start seeing the potential of their money into actually creating freedom versus just something to pay bills today and gone tomorrow. So you can get that either on LinkedIn or on Instagram. Wherever you can find me, it's linked.
Perfect. Well, I will, if you'll send me that, I will make sure to putting in the show notes.
Yes.
Link in the show notes. And that way people can just grab it there. But awesome. I really am excited that you were saying yes to come visit the podcast. And it worked out great because I started this fun series Behind the Curtain. And we'll just visit next time. I found Prisca's information so valuable. Y'all, this was amazing, and it is perfect for the end of the year to start thinking about not only the goals that you have about your life, but also how to tie in the financial goals as well. As you know, I have an amazing planner that is out there and ready for you. All you have to do is check out in the show notes, go grab it, thecrazyconfidencecoach.com, and you can find it under freebies. And let's get started on the new year, y'all. I know that you might need a little coaching, and I'm here for that. Sign up for your free discovery call. Let's get you going. This year is going to be here before you know it. Thank you so much for showing up. And if you haven't already, please leave a 5-star review. It is so extremely helpful. Have a great week. Come back and see me next week. And I love you big.